Well, I'm yet again back with yet another interesting roller coaster video on the channel. Today I've decided to go completely outside of my comfort area, creating a brand new idea. And this is where I'm going to be covering what is the best seat on a roller coaster. And well, that is overall a hard question to answer because you got many different roller coaster types, roller coaster trains, roller coaster layouts and so on. And this is where many people could already answer this is the front row because this is where you get the best view. And now if you aren't really a theme park or roller coaster enthusiast, you might not know that the best seat on a roller coaster really depends on the coaster type and layout. So that's why I've decided to go through some different roller coaster types and models to give you some examples. And now before going straight into this video, if you really like roller coaster videos like these, please consider subscribing to my channel for way more content out there. And now the first roller coaster model I want to talk about is the so-called B&M Hyper roller coaster. And this is where we are going to take a look at the so-called Mako roller coaster located at SeaWorld Orlando. And Mako stands 200 feet tall and reaches speeds over 70 miles per hour. And Mako also features this very iconic and quite simple roller coaster layout from a B&M Hyper coaster where you have all these Airtime hills, and we call them camelback hills. Now the main purpose of these B&M Hyper coasters is giving the rider several seconds of floating airtime. And another important thing about this roller coaster type is of course the train, because these hyper coasters features a large capacity and lengthy trains. And yeah, Mako features a train with 7 carts with 4 riders in each cart, so that is a total of 28 riders. Now because of the lengthy train on Mako, the back row gets a strong pull going down the first drop, and this is where you can experience the strongest negative g-forces. And now it gets interesting because I think the rest of the layout on Mako is actually best experienced in the front row. Let me explain. When you fly up the camelback hills on Mako, you get a strong sustained push in the front row, and in the back row the airtime is a bit delayed because you can feel it in the end where you get the strong pull from the train. Personally, I would go front row on this roller coaster because of the strong sudden airtime push in the front row and the visibility. Now let's quickly talk about another B&M Hyper roller coaster type, because this one features an even lengthier train design. And this is where we have Shambhala at Port Aventura, and this hyper coaster is said to be one of the best in the world. And Shambhala features an even lengthier train design with 8 carts with this so-called staggered seating. And the strong pull you can experience on the first drop and the rest of the camelback hills is way stronger and way more forceful on Shambhala. And the main reasons for this are the lengthy roller coaster train and the airtime focused layout. But the front row on Shambhala also delivers this strong and sustained push. This is where the front row and the back row experience is 50-50 for me, so please let me know in the comments if Shambhala is front row or back row for you guys. And now it's time to focus on yet another roller coaster type, and this time we are going to focus on the Intamin giga coasters. And now let's start with the original Intamin giga coaster called Millennium Force. And now just look at Millennium Force. You have a huge roller coaster layout, and on top of that a very lengthy roller coaster train. So yeah, we all know the back row is the best for the first drop, but the layout on Millennium Force is quite different compared to the B&M Hyper coasters. And Millennium Force mainly focuses on speed and positive g-forces because the layout mainly focuses on low to the ground transitions and also many overbank turns. And this is where the front row ride experience is way superior compared to the back row ride experience. And this is mainly because of the awesome visibility and strong wind flying past you when you sit in the front row of Millennium Force. And now let's focus on yet another giga roller coaster, but this time it is B&M's giga coaster model, and this is where I need to talk about Fury 325. And Fury 325 is actually the tallest roller coaster in the world with a lift hill, and this roller coaster layout is yet again mainly focused on high speed twists and turns that are low to the ground. And now in the end the coaster also flies through some iconic camelback hills from B&M. And yet again, apart from the first drop, this roller coaster experience is best experienced in the front row, and this is where you get the speed and visibility. And now we've talked about some of the biggest roller coasters in the world. Now we need to focus on the inverted / suspended coasters. And now let's talk about the inverted coaster model created by B&M, because that is just the most dominating inverted coaster in the world. And many of these inverted roller coasters by B&M are really known for pulling some strong positive g-forces. And these B&M inverted roller coasters are really capacity monsters because they feature a very lengthy roller coaster train where each cart features 4 riders. And these inverted coaster layouts mainly focuses on strong positive g-force heavy inversions. And then you might think the front row is the best because Millennium Force also focuses on the strong positive g-forces, but no. Many of these B&M coasters really fly through all these inversions with a great pacing. But the most intense ride experience can really be experienced in the back row of these inverts because the strong pull going out of these inversions are just crazy. Now the only reason to pick a front row ride on a B&M invert is because of the visibility. And now let's quickly go over another roller coaster type where the train hangs under the track. Let's talk about the Vekoma family suspended coasters. And these are known for only having one cloned layout, and this is where I've decided to showcase Orkan at Forbes Summerland. And the coaster layout is quite simple on these clones because you have a roller coaster train that has 10 cars with 2 riders, and this coaster layout doesn't feature airtime. You have a strong overbank turn and many helixes and twist and turns. So the question is this a front row experience or back row experience? And this one is surprisingly a back row experience. The pull going down the first drop and out of this overbank turn is way more intense in the back row. And to be honest, the rest of the layout on these family suspended coasters are really the same. It doesn't really matter if you sit in the front or back row. And now it's time to focus on a coaster model that mainly features very short trains, and I'm talking about the Intamin LSM coasters. And many of these multi-launch coasters mainly features very short roller coaster trains with 3 to 5 carts. And now let's talk about the iconic Intamin multi-launch coaster called Maverick. And this multi-launch coaster is really known for its great speed because you have many high-speed twists and turns and airtime moments. And well, apart from that small beyond vertical drop that is best in the back row because of the whip, the rest of the experience is mainly just the same. In terms of forces during the ride experience, you can't really feel the difference between the front row or back row because of the short roller coaster train. And that is why the front row on Maverick is the best, because this is where you get the visibility and awesome point of view. And now let's talk about an exception in terms of Intamin LSM launch coasters, and that is Velocicoaster located at Islands of Adventure. And this coaster yet again features a very lengthy multi-launch coaster layout with many intense elements and airtime moments. And this roller coaster layout is just filled with many different elements, and now because of the lengthy roller coaster train, the back row and front row feels quite different from each other. Velocicoaster is really one of those coasters where I've felt the biggest difference in terms of back row and front row. And this is where I can't really decide between the front and back row because some of the elements feels way better in the back row and also other elements feels way better in the front row. Now please let me know in the comments if you think Velocicoaster is best experienced in the front or back row. And now the last roller coaster type I need to talk about is the RMC iBox coasters. And all of these RMC coasters are really known for being revolutionizing in terms of roller coaster layout and elements. And now with a few exceptions, almost every RMC iBox roller coaster features strong ejector airtime moments. And this is where they are really known for creating very bizarre and intense moments such as outer bank airtime hills and this so-called 0G stall. And now let's quickly focus on everyone's favorite Steel Vengeance, which is known for having the most amount of airtime on any roller coaster in the world. And now because of the crazy pacing on almost every RMC roller coaster, the airtime is just crazy both in the front and back row. But this is where people tend to take the back row on Steel Vengeance because of the strong pull on the first drop and then the excessive pulling on all the airtime moments. This is where the airtime in the back row is just as intense in the front row of Steel Vengeance, but this is where you in the end of the airtime moment just get this strong and intense pull. And now speaking of world-class RMC roller coasters, let's talk about Ayanguasi. And this is where I overall think that Ayanguasi is just a bit more intense than Steel Vengeance. The pacing is overall just way faster right here. All of the elements on Ayanguasi are crazy, whippy and filled with strong airtime. And now apart from the first drop, of course, I can't really feel the difference between the back row and front row on Ayanguasi. And yeah, I might take that back because of the lengthy roller coaster train. This so-called death roll element is just way more intensified in the back row because of the strong pull, as you know. And now I finally said what I wanted to say in this video, and it is overall just quite hard to find the best seat if you haven't tried a roller coaster. And personally, I think it depends on the overall roller coaster layout and the length of the train. And now if you really just want that awesome point of view and visibility, you might just take the front row. And now if you are a roller coaster enthusiast like me, there are really layers to the ride experience, and it all depends on the row you're sitting in. And as I've said in the start of the video, if you really like videos like these, please consider subscribing to my channel for way more content. And now at the end of the day, I'm always gonna say bye bye.